there's a bar in Austin, Texas called La Condesa. It serves a damn good porn star martini. And it's at this bar that I told my good friend Stephen White, who at the time was the CEO of Grace Note, that I thought there was scope to build a niche music streaming platform, almost an antipode to the existing streaming services like Deezer and Spotify, who offer an all-you-can-eat mass market model. So a few martinis later, and we were sitting on the back of a rickshaw, nogal, basically navigating the craziness that is South by Southwest and discussing the ins and outs of what such a streaming service would entail. Now, I look back at those conversations and I just think how naive and uninformed I was. I had no idea what I was talking about and how this harebrained idea was way bigger than I ever could have imagined. But I soldiered on, and in fact, the name for Nichestreem was coined right here at a net profit conference. And the next 6 months, I spent plotting and planning, drafting RFPs, and reaching out to some of the biggest platform providers in the world, guys who at the time were backing Spotify and Songza and Apple Beats. And then I recruited the most kick-ass team imaginable, and I surrounded us with an all-star advisory panel. And we raised a chunk of money and set out to build the world's first niche music streaming service. So the idea was to start with Afrikaans music, and what few people know is that up to 58% of domestic music is attributed to Afrikaans. You know, die-hard, passionate fans who buy CDs and attend shows and watch Kyk Net Musiek and listen to RSG in Bok Radio, and who diligently attend things like arts and culture festivals like KAKNK and Aardklop Nasionale Kunstefees. So the idea was effectively to start with Afrikaans. And what's really interesting about digital catalogs is that only 5% of them are frequented. And the premise was that people don't listen to 33 million tracks. They only listen to the music they love repeatedly. And as far as markets like the Afrikaans market or the Nigerian gospel market or the Persian music market is concerned, existing streaming services completely don't cater for them. So sure, you can find some Afrikaans music on Spotify, but they pretty much lump it all together into one playlist. Now, if you know anything about Afrikaans music, putting Carlien van Jaarsveld and Lückhoff Polisiekar on the same playlist is like putting Red Hot Chili Peppers and Britney Spears on the same playlist. It's not done. Yeah. My clicker is not working. So in September of last year, someone saw the light, and this person is a chap by the name of Mark Mulligan, who writes music industry blog. And he wrote a piece on how niche music streaming services are the next frontier. Now, his thinking, like mine, is that you can change the game from zero-sum, that you can bring new users into the fold instead of competing for the same market share. Mass market streaming services cater for the lowest common denominator, and they effectively have exactly the same catalog and exactly the same features. So what happens if you have a smaller, cheaper niche service that has a more focused catalog, more market-relevant playlisting, and a far more focused marketing strategy? You can effectively bring users into the fold who otherwise maybe wouldn't consider streaming services or who aren't prepared to pay $10 a month. In addition, it makes sense for the labels because they can start surfacing back catalog that they wouldn't otherwise generate any revenue from. So the trick for us was to find that space where music and culture are really intrinsically linked. Right, so we then didn't stop there, because why would you? We figured why not build more than one stream, and we decided to build a scalable backend, effectively one of which you can brand and curate multiple streaming services. Think of it like the cable TV networks, effectively, offering streams like Kyk Net would be for DSTV, Likkie would be for Nichestreem. And we also then figured you could look at how to derive additional revenue from B2B sources and potentially even look at how do you make those streams free to users in the long run. Now, there are a lot of questions that were driving our thinking. So if you narrowly segment a market, can you drive deeper engagement? Can you facilitate online to offline behavior, purchasing behavior, for example, through mobile vouchering? Can you offer artists some insights that help them create better content and earn more revenue? And can you help them back you or make them more loyal followers of your service because they're effectively competing for market share against their peers and not against international big hits? Similarly, can you drive ticketing and merchandising for shows and for artists themselves? And can you drive more loyalty and longer, higher lifetime value and higher conversion? So we believe you can, and that's why we set about building this. That's Licky. We started with what we knew, Afrikaans. And the team started full-time in March of 2015, and 8 months later, we'd built an entire backend and 3 clients on top of that. An online widget, which was available through WeChat, an Android client, an app, which is now trending in the Play Store, and we've just gone into testing with iOS. We also signed record labels or licensing with all of the major record labels, and since launch, we've had over 97,000 track plays. My favorite stat is that our top user has listened to over 1,500 minutes of content, which is crazy. Also, he was born in 1946. True story. And it's not my dad. The other thing is we've got almost 5,000 lifetime users on Licky, and I believe that's a really, that's a product market fit. And I'm really proud to tell you that, all the wonderful accolades. We're an F&B Innovation Awards finalist. We've made it through the Endeavor Local Selection Panel. And we're super honored that Amazon Web Services featured us as their local success story, which I was going to show you. We've built Licky. Now you've seen that. So this was us. This was me. And the truth is that none of us had any idea what we were doing, not a cooking clue, except for Rolf, who's our product owner, who had built Empire, the German music streaming service that Deezer acquired. And Rolf came down, he hopped on a plane from Germany, flew down to Cape Town and joined our product workshop, the one where you decide on your MVP, that one. And he basically looked at the bunch of us and went, right, this is what you need to build. And he started showing us slides. Things like, what are the building blocks for putting an actual streaming service together, all of which was foreign, might I add. And then saying, okay, so you have this streaming service, what are all the touch points you've got to consider for this streaming service? And what we ended up with, this is a schematic representation of our backend, which is hosted on Amazon Web Services. And this is what they love so much about what we've done. But if you'd shown me this sentence a year ago, I would have proffered a guess that it was directions to Mars. It's been an interesting year. But luckily, we have an amazing CTO who's a genius, and I'm a quick study, so we got there eventually. We now have over 600 playlists, everything for genre, mood, activity, decade, think Goue Ouers and Sokkiejol and Braai, and we even have a Nasionale Melktert Dag speellys, which I love, because there was a Nasionale Melktert Dag. I guess this image represents so much of what I would imagine many people in this room feel. It's like, as a startup founder and as a startup, you completely calm on top and you're paddling like mad down below and you're just like, what am I doing? And, we navigate these trials and tribulations of cash flow and deal making. And, we've had to do deals with Sony and Universal and Orchard. And I had no idea what I was talking about when I first walked in there. And, we budget on marketing on a shoestring. And these are the things that really show you what you're made of at the end of the day. And let's be honest, running a startup is not for sissies. It's bloody hard. And yes, it's exciting and it's exhilarating and it's addictive, but it's also soul-destroying at times and gut-wrenching and sleep-depriving and stressful. And so, for us, the economics of streaming services or the perception of the economics of streaming services are still against us in many ways. A lot of these industry giants who refuse to look at different ways of making money or adopting new models or looking at left-field strategies. The second thing is that we run a dollar-based business in a South African economy, so when our leaders make decisions, or in our case fail to make decisions, that really impacts our business. Investors are more wary of investing here. Every time you do bring in an offshore investment, it pretty much loses money or value instantaneously when it hits your bank account. And Africa remains this unknown entity for many people across the globe. But I guess that's why conferences like these are so important. We get to share ideas and experiences and brainstorm new ideas. And, we basically get to demand change. At least I hope we do. And prove to people why they should back Africa. So while I'm here, we need to raise 500,000 US if we wish to take a really good stab at this. So if you know of anyone, kath@nichestreem.com. This has probably been one of the toughest years I've ever experienced, both fun and tough. And the learning curve has kind of been vertical. But I figured maybe it would be a good idea to share with you some of the learnings that we've had in the past year. And I highly recommend that you read a blog called The Heretic, which is run by Pascal Fenet. And he so succinctly says this, so I really do paraphrase from his blog. But the first thing was about focus, so cut back relentlessly on the things that don't matter. Stop going to stupid coffee meetings that you derive nothing from and going to the nth meetup where you see the same faces. Focus on the things that really matter and that move the needle at the end of the day. Secondly, build what matters, because we all fall in love with our product and we should really be in love with our users. And lastly, know when to walk away from a deal. Peter Drucker, who's this management guru, says, management is doing things right, and leadership is doing the right thing. And we really try and live by that. So all that's left to say is that the best way to predict your future is to create it. And I see a drink in mine, so let's all drink and be merry. Thanks.